Music then and now. I thought I'd do something a little bit different today. I'm not sure how well it will work. But from time to time, some of the people out there who produce videos about music, and there are quite a number of them, of course, will go through, say, the top 10 songs of the day and critique them, criticize them usually. Usually they're taking a fairly negative attitude towards them. On one occasion, I did see one of these people, to be fair, take a snapshot from a period 50 years earlier when and look at the top 10 at that time. I couldn't help watching that video thinking that the person was extremely biased towards the older songs, probably for obvious reasons. They brought back memories, they were familiar to the person, and to that person they were classics. So the current top 10 had no chance because they can't be classics yet, can they? And we can't know whether they are or not. So I thought I would take a look at this with my own biases by looking at today's Australian chart, today being the 3rd of December 2023, and also going back at looking at what might have been on the charts on, I think it's the 1st of December 1973. So I'm not going to play these songs for you. One, it would take too long, but also I don't want to get caught up in all that copyright stuff. I actually don't know how the people who do play tracks on these YouTube videos get away with it, because if you look at the copyright rules, they're fairly strict about not using copyrighted material. Maybe they pay some sort of fee to someone that allows them to do that. I don't know. Or maybe they're just ignoring the rules and getting away with it. Again, I don't know. But I'm not going to take the chance. I will just have to tell you about the songs and leave it up to you to go and listen to them, which is exactly what I did as I was going through them, just so that I could refresh my memory about them, particularly the 1973 songs. So, what I'll do is I'll just briefly discuss the number 10 song from this year and the number 10 song from 1973 and so on, and go through them like that. I hope you'll find something interesting in this. I was looking at the demographic of people who are watching these videos, and mostly, I guess inevitably, they're older people. I guess that's who YouTube is aiming these videos at in their suggested videos. So many of those among you will actually have been alive in 1973 and maybe even a teenager like I was in 1973. So this is what we, the teenagers, I guess mainly, were listening to in 1973. And you can compare that with what, I guess, teenagers, but me too, are listening to in 2023. So the number 10 song in 2023 today is a song by Taylor Swift. It's called Is It Over Now? And it's from her 1989 re-recorded album, or rather, it's one of the songs from the vault of that period. So it wasn't actually on that album. It wasn't released at that time. So she's re-recorded that and released it now. And it's a good song. It doesn't stand out for me. It's fairly typical of that period. It's a synth electro pop sort of song. Has some good hooks, some good catchy bits, as most of Taylor Swift's songs do. But it doesn't stand out as one of her best for me, although many people consider it the best on the re-released album. I probably wouldn't put it there, but there it is. In 1973, the number 10 song, for some bizarre reason, and I do not know why, was Monster Mash by Bobby, Boris Pickett, and the Crypt Kickers. Yes, that's right, Monster Mash. Now, that song was first released in 1962. What it was doing on the charts in 1973, I have absolutely no idea, and it's just as awful in 1973 as it was in 1962, in my opinion. The number 9 song on today's chart is a song by Kenya Grace called Strangers. Now, I know nothing about Kenya Grace, and as far as I can tell, this is her first release. It's a soft vocal, sort of dance, drum bass song, very simple melody. Uh, it's sort of typical of some of the stuff that's coming out at the moment with the sort of soft, almost whispery vocal. Nothing stand out about it. It's okay, and maybe her subsequent songs will have a little bit more substance to them. It's the first of a number of songs on the 20 on today's chart that are a bit like that. In 1973, now remember this is an Australian chart, so many of you might not know some of these songs. In 1973, the number 9 song was a song by a band called Sherbet, and it was called Cassandra. Now, Sherbet, as the name suggests, was something of a sugary pop band, very much appealing to the teens of the day. Cassandra was not a song of theirs that I could remember. Even listening to it now, I could barely remember it. So, fairly forgettable. The number 8 song on today's chart is a song by a guy called Zach Bryan. He's actually a country singer, and this is a country song with a little bit of a lean towards pop, I would say. Now, in the last few months, a number of country songs have been getting into the charts. It's kind of having a bit of a resurgence, country music. Now, this song by Zach Bryan is a really good song. It's dominated by acoustic guitar and harmonica. The vocals are superb. It's really worth a listen if you haven't heard it. So that's the first song that I would say is a really good song on the top 10 at the present time. 1973, the number 8 song was a song called Dancing on a Saturday Night by somebody called Barry Blue. It's kind of a glam rock song with a bit of doo-wop going on in it. It's extremely forgettable, and I had no recollection of it at all. The number 7 song today is actually another Zach Bryan song, the second one of his in the top 10. And it features Casey Musgraves, and it's slightly more country than the other song on the list. It's mostly acoustic, and it's even better than Something in the Orange. The vocals of Zach Bryan and Casey Musgraves are superb. It's a dialogue song between them. Excellent. And again, really, really go listen to it. In 1973, the number 7 song was a song by Tony Orlando and Dawn called Say, Has Anybody Seen My Sweet Gypsy Rose? Now, you may remember that. I did remember that. Typical of Tony Orlando and Dawn. Schmaltzy pop song, a little bit music hall-ish, maybe even a little ragtime. Not too bad, at least I remembered it, but very much a formulaic song from Tony Orlando's gang. Not bad, but hardly great either. Now, the number 6 song in 2023 is by someone called Tyler, and it's called Water. I don't know anything much about Tyler. This is probably also a debut single. Kind of reminds me of the Kenya Grace track. It's sort of similar. It's a little bit maybe R&B-ish. But for me, it's a little bit too similar to the kind of stuff that SZA, S-Z-A, has been making. Similar sounding vocals, similar little auto-tune elements here and there on it. And didn't make a great impression on me. The 1973 number 6 song is one you'll probably remember if you were there. It's Can the Can by Suzi Quatro. Well, yeah, it's memorable. It's rock, it's glam rock at the time. It was written by Mike Chapman and Nicky Chin, and they were churning out these songs at the time. This is a little bit different, a little bit harder edge, more rocky sound. But nevertheless, it's a formulaic, factory-produced song. It's memorable. If you hear this, you'll probably get up and dance and start singing if you're from that era. I don't know what anybody hearing it for the first time would think. And those of us who remember it probably think, well, yeah, it's not a great song though, is it? Now, the number 5 song on today's chart is Cruel Summer by Taylor Swift. It's actually from her Lover album, which came out in 2019. So I'm not sure why it's on the charts now, but you know, Taylor Swift, in her move to rule the entire world, can do anything, and anything she releases can just pop up on the charts anytime for who knows what reason. But Cruel Summer is a great song. It's a synth pop, electro pop song, but with some sort of industrial elements which hark back to her previous album, the Reputation album. So it's got a little bit more of an edge to it than some of her purely synth pop songs. Great hooks, great bridge, a really good song. And anyone who doesn't know Taylor Swift in her more pop, synth pop phase, go and have a listen to that because it's really good. Now, in the 1973 number 5 song was a song by an Australian artist called Kevin Johnson, called Rock and Roll, I Gave You All the Best Years of My Life. Now, many of you will probably know that from a cover version by a guy called Mac Davis, which I think was probably a bigger hit overseas. But in Australia, this at least made number 5 by Kevin Johnson. And it's a kind of soft rock, country ish, easy listening sort of song. And it's quite pleasant to listen to even today. It's not as schmaltzy as some of the easy listening music tends to be. So not a bad listen, and I did remember it when I heard it, but it's not one that I would sort of jump up and down about, but it's a pleasant listen. The number 4 song on the charts today is called Prada, and it's by somebody called Casso with Ray and D Block Europe. It's a kind of EDM song, not electronic dance music. Not my cup of tea. Heavily auto-tuned vocals, very forgettable. It, even when I hear it again a few minutes later, I have no idea who it is. Not exactly the greatest song on the charts. The 1973 number 4 song is one we've probably forgotten, though we may remember it when we hear it. It's by Cher, and it's called Half Breed. It's a kind of pop folk song, maybe leaning very much towards the pop end of that scale. A sort of vaguely North American Indian melody running in the background. It's pretty unremarkable, pretty unmemorable. We'd probably rather forget it, I think. The number 3 song in 2023 is by Doja Cat, and it's called Paint the Town Red. It can suck you in because it's got a sample of Walk On by Dionne Warwick as the entrance and also playing throughout the track. It's a fairly basic sort of hip hop song when you consider the music, but the vocal is really good and the lyrics are really good, and it's certainly one of the better songs of the genre. Very catchy, very singable, very listenable. The 1973 number 3 is again one we'll probably all remember. I certainly remembered it. I'm kind of assuming you will too. And that's Rubber Bullets by 10cc. It's a very catchy, glam rock, very glitzy sort of song. A lot of fun. Now, the lyrics of this song are actually quite serious. They're about the troubles in Northern Ireland at the time. But most of us probably just remember the sort of the catchy tune and the catchy chorus. The number 2 song today is by Tate McRae, and it's called Greedy. Tate McRae is one of those female pop singers who pops into the charts now and then with a kind of okay but fairly mediocre sort of pop song, and that's what this is. It's fairly basic, it's pretty forgettable. And you listen to it, you think, yes, but why? It sounds like a million other songs, and I don't really know why it's there, except that maybe it's reminding people of the million other songs that they've liked. Don't think it'll be around for long, and I don't think it'll make a great impression. Number 2 song in 1973 is a song by Vicki Lawrence called He Did With Me. I didn't remember it. I don't remember Vicky Lawrence. It's a schmaltzy pop ballad. Kind of sounds like what a movie soundtrack song, the one that they would put up for an Oscar nomination or something. Easy listening, yeah, very easy listening. And just with the Tate McRae song, you'd have to ask, yes, but why? Sounds like a million other songs, completely forgettable. The number one song in 2023 is a bit of a surprise to me, a bit of a puzzle. It's by Jack Harlow and it's called Lovin' on Me. Jack Harlow is a hip hop rap artist. The emphasis, I think, falls a little bit more on pop with this song. It's got a catchy beat and some nice hooks, but again, it sounds very ephemeral. I don't think it's going to be around for long. It's okay ish, but I wouldn't have expected to get to number one. The number one song in 1973 is one you certainly will know, and I think people who didn't grow up in the era will know too, and that's Angie by the Rolling Stones. Now, it's a rock ballad, piano, acoustic guitars, great sort of plaintive vocals by Mick Jagger. I think this is the only song in the top 10 from 1973, December 1st, 1973, that we would actually consider a classic, a great song. And it is. You have to give it credit for being that. It's just a great song. So there you have it. There's a lot of diversity and variety in both charts at the time, but I actually think there's a bit more diversity in today's chart than in the one back from 1973. There's country, there's hip hop, there's pure pop. I think the music today, I think it measures up to the music back then. In fact, yeah, I think on balance, I would say that the tracks in 2023 are a little bit better than most of the tracks from 1973. Obviously, there are a couple of standouts from back there, particularly Angie. But I think being fair, you'd have to say that some of the stuff from 1973 was very forgettable rubbish. And even some of the stuff that we actually remember and we enjoy and we'll get up and dance to and sing to, they're good, they're catchy, but they're not really great works of art. I think today's chart stands up pretty well, even though it also contains its fair share of forgettable stuff. If you do take the time to have a listen to both of them, maybe just listen to the first little bit of each of them, especially the older ones, to remind you what they were. Maybe just make a comment or two. I'd really be interested to hear your comments. I know that there's a tendency for us older folk to be biased towards the older music, but I really do think that today's music stands up to that. So go and have a listen. Make your comments below. I'd love to hear them. Thanks.